we could look for something else.
You're live.
Huh?
You're live.
Hello there. This is Jill Banks. I'm going to be here for the 5 o'clock club for Rittenhouse Square Art Show. Minutes, just last minute getting ready. Going to be showing you some of the interiors that I've created, but also painting up one of the studio, which is where you're standing now. Do we have any company?
We have 7. We're fading in and out a little bit.
Oh, I wasn't really expecting anyone before 5 o'clock. So you should be grabbing a beverage in case you need something like that.
Kathy Adcock.
Hi there.
Said hi.
Hi, Kathy. All right, sticking things under here. This is going to be fun. All right. Actually, you should show them what I'm going to be painting. See, right behind our camera guy is my easel. And so this is maybe from those are about my eyeballs. So I see the paintings over there. It's normal for each of the paintings to include one of these things. So I'm going to talk to my cameraman who's shaking his head. Why?
We're fading in and out, so people are going to miss some words every now and then.
All right. Hopefully you're just missing my ums instead of the really important words. And I do know that, but whatever faded out won't be there. Just to give you, and that was via Zoom, where I was encouraging people to really look all around their house for inspiration. And obviously we all got stuck inside for an extended period of time. I always find that they're like little vignettes, and those can be considered still lifes. But going farther than that is where those things are placed. And so then I think in terms of plein air painting, I'm thinking about the whole scene, and I'm doing the same thing as far as interiors are concerned. All subject matter is interesting to me. And I just want to show you, like, as I was trying to figure out what to paint for the demo, I thought, well, I really wanted to bring you into the studio, number one. But I literally moved all over the room and sat and stood, and I love this view. So this piece of furniture that I inherited, and then right above it I've got 2 paintings where I captured that or used that. But I didn't do it for this demo because that's really too close. So one of the things that when I'm painting, I want to be far enough away from my subject that I can take it all in. And that was really, really challenging. And then I did pick a view, like those are my decorations for the Christmas parties and home shows that I couldn't invite you to last year. Well, those just stay up until they go out, I suppose. And then we're going to turn around here for just a minute. So this is, there's one room in my house that I like in particular, and that's the breakfast area that's upstairs. And now I think, well, I painted the chandelier that I love, but one of the things that I love so much about it is the light that comes in through that window. So instead of painting the room once again in general, I set up the still life on our kitchen table. And then it's that backlight that was fun to explore. And here's living room, so that's up there. And my family room, and we'll come over for just a sec. And so the family room actually has one of the paintings from that breakfast area. That painting sold, so that was not what's hanging in my family room. But things do tend to change around anyway. So now Randy and I, without tripping over one another, are going to go, and I'm going to work on this painting. So if anybody, we can show you my palette. Actually, This is very exciting to see the back of me here. Okay. We can take a peek into the palette. What's there, Randy? And I don't know that I brought out all of the brushes that I was going to use. But actually, most of my time was spent thinking about where I wanted to paint. And
Rittenhouse said hello.
Hello, Rittenhouse. Hope things are going okay. So this is a sketch, and I'm always curious if people can understand what it is I'm capturing from just that close-up view. And hopefully Randy can kind of capture that too. This right here is the tabaret that I use, and it's like a utility cart that I actually inherited. So some people, when they're thinking about inheriting things, are going for something of great, monetary value. This is of great value to me. I knew it was just the perfect height. My great aunt owned it, and actually even just like the surface, I love it. It's got a patina of all the thousands of paintings that I've painted using it. I did turn things around. I thought of all these pretty areas within the studio that I could have painted, but it's like, I'm here, I'm in the studio, so it had to be something that was as studio as you could come, and so the tabaret and the easel seemed like the right approach. So it's from that tabaret, and this is a loose sketch. This is no more than 5 minutes. Just thinking about abstract shapes, and I'm squinting here as I would capturing anything to just kind of see values. The light hits it at the top of the tabaret. I've got all sorts of crazy little things that I can paint, and this is sort of, it's like, okay, what the heck? That's the chair back there with the Afghan. I'm like, and here's a mirror. And normally I would have my easel turned the other way, and I would check my painting progress in the mirror. I made sure it's positioned so that I don't have to do a self-portrait. Anyway, and this is, I snuck in another painting for you to see, and this is one from Philadelphia. So Rittenhouse Square, because I missed you so much, there's a painting of the flower market that's there on the Saturdays that we are set up.
You got a question from Sharon. She says, do you always use certain colors for the underpainting sketch?
There are some go-to colors for the underpainting. So all I wanted to do was get at value. And as I'm sketching this, I hadn't toned the canvas. I did sneak in what would normally be there as a tone. So a lot of times I'm toning on the spot. I mean, that day, not ahead of time. I don't want it to be dry. And I'm toning with yellow ochre. And in this case, for the dark, I just use French ultramarine blue. Many times that would be combined with transparent earth red. And that combination comes up really dark. When I look at this scene, and it's like, it's not like a close-up still life where I've got a black, like a lot of super darks. The French ultramarine on its own was a good place to start. But the number one is I've thinned that with Gamsol, and actually I keep putting it in there, and that's not a particularly normal thing for me to do. But anyway, the ultramarine blue is a transparent color. It's really easy to go right over top of it, although probably with the, all right, so this is just so that you now have a clue that that's that red tabaret. But anyway, I can go directly over top of that. There isn't much paint there, And as I'm developing a painting, I don't want to have a lot of paint up there too early. It's just going to tend to get in my way. So for those of you who just moments ago got my email newsletter, you should know that my day, earlier in the day, I was teaching my plein air class, and I was at a farm with cows running around, very much enjoying the outdoors. And this is just kind of quite a switch. One of the things when I'm painting is I'm not trying to get at anything. Nothing needs to be right. It may never need to be right, but it sure doesn't need to be right at the beginning. So it isn't paint by number. I don't have it all worked out. I don't measure anything. Unless it's kind of rare that I'm in such trouble that I need to try to.
Kathy asked, are you calling that cart a cabaret or a tabaret?
A tabaret. Taboret. So it's got to be from the French, right? And that just means my utility cart for painting.
She said, oh.
Very fancy, right?
Should I dim the lights a little? Or
Huh?
should I dim the lights at all?
Why? Does it seem too strong?
Sharon asked, can you speak to the difference between plein air painting and painting indoors?
Yep. So there I was with the cows. I wasn't painting, so my students were painting. I was kind of jealous, but plein air painting, in all cases, you do have variations of light unless you were working in the dark and under complete artificial light. The accidents happen more rarely when you're painting indoors. People have asked about different palettes and everything else. I load up the same palette whether I'm painting indoors or I'm painting a still life, or I just have all the colors ready, so you never know what I want to paint next. I would be, unless I was doing these interiors, I might be using some different equipment. I wouldn't necessarily be using my portable easel. But this is what I would end up taking plein air painting. And this is I've been painting our bedroom and painting in the hallway and in the dining room and everywhere else. This is the easy one for me to bring around.
Chris asked, where can people see more of your work? What is your website address?
So see more of my work, jillbanks.com. And while you're there, I have an events page. So one is I'm going to be taking part in the Rittenhouse Square Fine Art Show, the virtual edition. I wish we were in the park. But there are quite a few events, including Zoom rooms where you can come visit me. I'll set up my booth here at home. But you can visit the booth and talk to me, and we can go around to individual paintings. That's Rittenhouse related. Upstairs, and that was one of the reasons why I decided to paint down here in the studio. Randy has been packaging up 55 paintings for the show this weekend in Old Town Alexandria, Virginia. And so that's happening Saturday and Sunday. And these things are on the events page. Okay, I only see a little bit of this thing. This is testing whether I can talk and paint at the same time. But also have studio in Great Falls, Virginia. And that is open by appointment, or like it's open this Saturday. And it has fewer paintings in it so that I could put things on the wall here. Actually, if Randy just turns around 360 degrees, you'll see more paintings. There's a painting in Tucson in a show. I've got a painting heading to Salmagundi Club in New York. It's so exciting that they're going places. And then I'm going places. Chris, where can we see more of your work? Turn the tables. All right. I am a quick painter out of necessity. When we were talking about the plein air, your window of opportunity with the same kind of light is really short. And I think I was fast before, but that certainly encouraged me to really look for ways that I could really get at the essence of something and develop it rapidly. I love painting people, and they tend to move around. If I'm going to capture them, I have to be quick.
Chris says, always at Rittenhouse for sure.
Yes. When I was toning the canvas, I left this part blank, which is that upper window. I've had a lot of home studios that have been in the lower level, in the basement, whatever. But I love the highlight. Like that isn't, it's just providing light without providing the glare.
Sharon asked, tell us about your background.
You mean my painting background, Sharon?
No,
Versus
so.
What?
Well, I don't know. I think, you're
not
the background in the painting.
Not the background of the painting.
Right,
It is funny, like, so in teaching or something else, I'll get these questions. They're like, I gotta really find out what's being asked. So it came to art as a second career, just starting to take classes. I've always considered myself an artist, but not a fine artist. And I took classes from some of the very best in the Art League down in Alexandria, and did that for a number of years. After having run my own business for 16 years. Randy thought he wished that I had started earlier. I found that all of my experiences helped me progress in this. And the classes that I took was really focused on figure and portrait. People are my main interest, so in my plein air work, as opposed to painting trees, you're going to find me painting at a farm or in an urban area where there are people around, or creatures, or somebody to interact with. I had taken classes with models, and we had just wonderful subjects, but I also always saw people as subjects, not objects. Aren't we glad that we're not objects? And I always really wanted to know more and investigate and get to know more than the people that would be willing to sit still. And one of the things you'll find on my website, or looking back in terms of my history, is 10 years ago I did a project that was 100 faces in 100 days, where I painted anyone that volunteered to sit for me. We scheduled out 100 days, starting from January 1st to April 10th. And you could meet those people on my website. So there's, in the work section, there's a gallery of those paintings, but also then the stories, the things we talked about. And that project, with those other things combined beforehand, tells a really good story too about me. And actually we have tons of the 100 faces down here on that's probably not very nice, but they're down here on the ground near me.
Kathy said it's been 10 years?
10 years. It was 2011. So that's something, actually we think about two things. One is I didn't start painting or taking art classes until in my 40s. And I have this idea that it's never too late to do anything, or I will do a whole bunch of things to make sure that nothing gets in the way of my doing something. So the 100 Faces project, I came up with the idea, and then I didn't tell my husband or parents that I was planning on doing this, because I didn't want anyone to talk me out of it. But also, our son was getting married in February of that year, and I'm starting in January. So in order to do my 100 Faces project, I doubled up, painted more than one face.
You mean you didn't skip the wedding?
4 days. I didn't skip the wedding, and it just proves, it's like you don't have to wait till just the right time. Nothing would ever get done, right? So like I have this painting of mine in the background. I'm really squinting up just to generalize. It's the flower market, got a figure. I even have fresh flowers in here over in the background. Paper towels are a very important tool for me. I don't think I could do anything without them. Constantly wiping off. All right, one of the things that I really like too, there's like so much history back there in that studio, in the back of the studio. So if the objects in the window, one is horse, that made it into a still life early on. I have a love of horses. There's a sculpture back behind easel 3 over there. And before I painted, I took sculpting, or it was supposed to be probably a pottery class or something else, but sculpted in clay. And that is a bust of our daughter. And there's a drawing over in the corner that I painted of Michelangelo's David. We're at the Accademia, right, in Florence.
Yeah. Sharon asked, are you using the same brush throughout?
I have been so far. I don't like the idea of going with a little brush. So if I ever had a small brush, it would take forever to paint anything. This is a 12 by 16 canvas. It's a board. It's linen line, Centurion linen line, oil primed. That's it, right? Mm-hmm. Coming from Jerry's Artarama. I'll paint. I have pads of it, I have stretched canvases, and I have boards. Okay, just for the heck of it.
Kathy asked, is it a flat or filbert brush?
This is a flat. Actually, I think it's a bright flat. And I like the edges, and I use the flat part. Like if I would have needed a smaller brush, I can use this instead. Okay, so I like that horse, like the silhouette that's in the back. But it's not like it's going to be the main deal. All right. So I have my 5 o'clock club sign. So that was a white piece of paper, but I'm looking at it and wondering.
What's the difference between a flat and a bright?
Is that Kathy? I don't know, Kathy. I want you to report back. So these are my cheapo brushes. This is Simply Simmons. And I have some rosemary brushes. I can sometimes get fancier. I don't know if it'd be any longer, but both flats and brights have straight edge. And I used to use filberts, which have the rounded edge, but I like this idea, the different brush strokes that I can make with a flat versus a filbert.
Kathy said we'll talk on Tuesday.
Okay. We could do that.
Oh, okay. And Sharon wanted to know if we could do some close-ups at times. Sure.
Do some close-ups. So that's the cameraman's job. So the cameraman's the same person that gets a nice extra badge as a helper at the Rittenhouse Square show. is there anything in particular you wanted a close-up for? Close-up of? I did think of getting fancier and trying to show you the subject from my eyes at the same time, but I think this is fancy enough for me today. So there's a vase of flowers over there, and before I was a fancy painter like this, that's one of those make-your-own pottery.
Sharon says she thinks bright brushes have shorter bristles.
Okay. So then this would be my perfect choice, because I don't want to have shorter. I'd like to be able to load more paint up.
Kathy says she's having a brush crisis, but she's trying to work it out.
Oh, yeah. A lot of people are doing that at the same time. Okay. I say okay a lot to myself, unfortunately. I want to go think through. Interiors, there are parts that need to be fairly well drawn. Like, I can't really be totally crazy as far as perspective is concerned. My main tool as far as drawing is concerned is to think of how things line up. And like, I'm painting this chair, and I'm thinking of how much I see of it next to the tabaret, like where it ends. Like, I'll think plumb lines top and bottom. Like, lots of these things don't make any difference whether they're right or wrong, but it does make more sense in the end if I line it up a little. I will, and if I'm trying to figure out an angle, a lot of times I'll just hold my brush at a perfect horizontal or a perfect vertical, and like the easel back there is out of the view of my painting, but I could hold it this way and realize that the right side is tilting down. All right. So do you see how many? Oh, doubt it. But there are tons of brushes that are underneath my tabaret, along with a big thing of Gamsol. All I want to do is indicate the mess that's back there, under there. All right. So I've got a pad underneath where I'm normally painting, and that protects the floor. I got a tile floor, which I wouldn't want to be standing on that directly all day long. When we first moved here, it had carpet, which fortunately wasn't in great shape, but it was in worse shape after I got phthalo green on my shoes and paced back and forth from my easel. And I took that right on upstairs. And then that year we got tile instead.
Was that on purpose?
It might have been. I really dislike the carpeting. I would have always really wanted a floor that I didn't have to think about, but This is close. All right.
You want a time warning?
Yeah, sure. Well, I don't know.
How long are you supposed to do? 45 minutes?
45.
Or 35.
Okay. There's this feeling of relief too when I get more like the whole thing thought through a little bit. Like I like to cover my canvas. There aren't any super large objects in the painting. There's no, I don't want to be tested too much because there's no super strong focal point, although I can put it on that tabaret. All right, let me get a So I have more interiors too on my website. This isn't, I paint all sorts of subjects. This isn't, I guess the interiors were at top of mind as we're coming out of the pandemic because I've just seen so much of the inside. But on my website under works, there's an interior and landscape section. I don't want any of these parts back here to stand out too much. Want them to go in the background. My cow.
Sharon said, nice job mixing the wall color. That's tricky. How do you approach mixing / matching colors?
I don't need to match them. It's kind of just got to be relative. Relative to the other ones, I don't know if I stuck to my suggestions that I give to others, but it's great to paint areas adjacent to one another. So it's a lot easier. Like if the colors are all relative, we don't necessarily have paint for that we could mix up or that we would want to spend all the time mixing up to get something that's just right. But it's easier for me to figure out, okay, I have an Afghan here and that's beige. Okay, and the wall is grayer, very similar in value. But I wouldn't be able to come up with that if I tried to do, okay, so I've got this beige Afghan and I have a gray wall. Well, that gray wall is over here, so let me go from this to over here. I'm going to be off by the time I came here. But the other thing, like we've got ambient light, we have things changing. When I came over here, something's causing kind of a pinkish glow in the gray, warming it up over here. But it's not in the beige family. I do just also think about what's important. Like, I'm not going to be sweating whether I've shown you my tile pattern. And then if I get too caught up, like I said, I don't want really things to stand out too much out here. It's 'cause like that's a background element. And there may even be things that I would do that aren't driven by reality at all, but because I want it to stay as a background element. Like, okay, well, how should I be downplaying that? So I've addressed, all right. So earlier in the pandemic, I was doing a lot of Facebook Live and Instagram, and I did all sorts of things to at least get me moving and going and creating, even when no one was seeing it. And I did the 31-day January challenge, which was doing a painting. You didn't necessarily need to do a painting a day, but you needed to paint something from life and post it. And then I had to think of where I was going with that one. Oh, one was I decided to do a giveaway, which I must not be that generous. I don't do giveaways very often, but I gave away a free painting, and it was of me. So maybe not the most marketable painting, but it was a self-portrait of me in my studio. That was the last time I was painting the studio with one of its subjects. But that was fun and neat way of connecting, actually, with artists from all around the world. I have new friends. There's a time, I know that I won't be done with this painting in this short period of time. But there's still kind of lessons in it anyway. So if I'm out there, I've done timed events where I have an hour and a half or some amount of time, or just I have something on my schedule that makes it so that I only have so long to paint. There's a time that I address the painting and just think, okay, what does it really need? Like putting together a checklist for myself that would lead me to finishing this during the time frame that I have. And I'm kind of doing that now. Like there's some areas that I've avoided completely. How's the sound been? And has we stayed connected okay?
We have. So we just had those.
So it's funny.
First 3 or 4 minutes. So I guess we need to start early every time. I haven't gotten that message at all.
Yeah.
So
Good. Okay, so when I think about it, I want to tie, I don't want this to be just a bunch of objects. So I want to tie some of these pieces together. And that could be color harmony, looking for...
Oh, Chris said the sound's been terrific.
The what?
Sound's been terrific.
Good. I do have my mic on. Hopefully I won't keep it on all day, right? That's a flower market. All right, and then I was ignoring this part. So anybody from elsewhere, how's the weather? Did you have a gorgeous day? Is it pretty in Philly? We've been going. Okay, so here's a case where I kind of think of how things line up, which helps my perspective. It was you, Sandy, that was asking whether I was using the same brush the whole time. And
springtime in New York.
Huh?
Gorgeous. Springtime in New York City.
All right.
Gorgeous and sunny and what's WI? Is that Wisconsin or?
Huh?
WI?
Wisconsin?
Wisconsin.
Oh.
Let me get you one.
It is. It's like it literally. It was a little cold for plein air, but
beautiful
what?
In Philly.
Nice. We do get on the road trips too, and then it's fun to watch the trees flower in reverse or something. So something that will be fun for me to play with are my Christmas lights over there. Some details. One of the things that we should be finishing up. I should be finishing up. One of the things that I love, though, about people is they will fill in all the blanks. So I don't need to put in the details because you're going to take care of it for me. And it's another reason why I'm happy to be an impressionist painter. Okay, so I will work on this painting. Don't know when that's going to be, just because we'll get going for the show. But then it will be eventually posted on my website. I am taking part in the Rittenhouse Square Fine Art Show, the virtual edition, and one is the Zoom booth. I'm doing that on Friday and Saturday. This is over June 4th through 6th. There's a virtual gallery and Zoom booth, and I'm doing another Facebook Live, which it'll be a different topic for sure. But I hope you check those out. Join me. You're always welcome to subscribe to my newsletter, jillbanks.com, and you'll get news of other events and places big. Anyway, I hope you're having a great rest of the day. And thank you for visiting.
Your mom said that your Aunt Ruth would love that you're using her table.
Oh, cool.
Chris said to make sure you save your video.
Okay, thank you, Chris. Good reminder.
It said a cabaret red tabaret.
A what?
A cabaret red tabaret.
Okay.
And then she said, thank you, Jill and Randy. Rittenhouse, thank you, 5 O'Clock Club. And Kathy said she enjoyed it.
Well, thanks so much. All right.
All right, I'll finish.